Welcome into the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday. I'm Tim Dennis. Excited for today's show because we are going into part 2 of a book that I was excited to bring you the first time. The Big Dog series is what we're talking about. We're talking about the second book of the Big Dog series. It's called Gasping for Air. S.L. Ditmars is our guest. We'll call him Steve for this part of the interview. S.L. Ditmars is the award-winning author of the Big Dog series. He's a retired police officer from Long Beach, California, and has held positions in patrol, police, canine information technology, homeland security, counterterrorism, and police communications. He currently resides in Prescott, Arizona with his wife Barbie and their 2 German Shepherd rescues, Gunner and Missy. We'll catch up a little bit with Steve and see what is going on in his life, and then we'll talk a little bit about Gasping for Air, which I got the privilege of sitting down this weekend and absorbing and really enjoying. Let's welcome to the show S.L. Ditmars. Steve, how you doing?
I am great. Hello, Darkness Radio. Hey, Tim. Great to be here. Thank you very much for having me on again. It's always a pleasure to come on and talk to you and your audience. Life is grand. Life is grand.
It's good to hear that, my friend. It's good to hear that. I tell you, I thoroughly enjoyed catching up with J.W. North and Bonnie and the rest of the gang in this second book, Gasping for Air. We'll get to the meat of that story here in just a bit. I want to catch up with you here, Steve, and let's remind people again, kind of the meat and potatoes of what this Big Dog series is based on. And when we talked last time about the first book, we were mentioning that this book is based on scent trail technology. Now, explain to us, Steve, is scent trail technology a thing right now in crime fighting? And is it prominent in crime fighting technology?
Is it a thing?
Yeah.
Certainly. It was back when we did it,
okay.
And it still is. Is it a thing in, current police work? I can't tell you for certain. I know that some people that I was involved with when we ran our program out of Long Beach are still out there doing it. In LA County, is it as active as it was when we were doing it? I just don't know, because I've kind of fallen out of contact with a lot of those people when I retired and then later moved here to Prescott. You lose touch with those people a little bit. I still talk to my former handler, mm-hmm. but a lot of the people that were still doing it now, Long Beach isn't doing it. I know that.
Okay.
What is it? How does it work? Well, some of that's based on, I won't say guesswork, but scientific analysis. The dogs in general have a unique ability to smell things that we cannot, and to break them down and separate them so that they can isolate on part of a scent. In the air at any given time, there's lots of things wisping around. Human scent is based on shed skin cells, and we're constantly shedding these from our bodies, and they go into the air because they're light, obviously. They have mass, but they're very light, so they are influenced by the wind or even just air movement. Mm-hmm. But they will collect. And so if a person were to walk down a road or a sidewalk, they would leave a trail of these. Depending upon weather conditions, it could be right where they walked, and of course the surface, but they'll collect. And the dog has the ability to follow that. If you think of the old prison break movies in the South, bloodhounds trailing somebody, that gives you a rough look into that world. And the bloodhounds are extremely well qualified. They're somewhat bred for it, I would say. Their body structure works towards it. They're more of a head down animal. Mm-hmm. They have a much larger scent area than any other dog. And we found while working with the dogs that we could also use other breeds. They weren't as good of a trailer as the bloodhound, but they were good enough and they were pretty darn close. So we used this technology to help us trail suspects. And then, like a lot of programs, it fell out of use over time because it takes a lot of work dedicating, a number of people towards keeping that dog focused and, be able to prove his abilities. Then you've got to have the work and, what level of a case. And this is a problem that JW and I, through JW, addressed in the second book is, you could trail anyone with this. Where do you say no? Where do you stop? Do you say, oh, it's only murderers? But if somebody calls you on a lost kid, do you say no? And so that becomes a bit of a moral dilemma for the handler and their department, because this is not a bottomless resource. The dog can only do so much work in any given day, the handler also. And so you have to kind of try to decide, what am I going to focus on and how am I going to say no if the time comes? And that's a whole section of this book is, JW wrestling with the director of the FBI about, well, how are we going to do this?
I found that fascinating as well. Prioritization of how you use a tool and what you use that tool for. When we start out this book, which is again based on some true stuff, but it's mainly fiction, correct?
Yeah. None of the work we did in Long Beach, or 98% of the work we did in Long Beach, is not in any of these stories. There's a couple of anecdotal stories from my career that I've incorporated where we didn't even use a dog, but it just worked well into the storyline. So yeah, these are fictional stories. There's no direct tie to cases that are either active or adjudicated.
Okay.
But it's a problem. When if you've got a parent standing in front of you, help me. How do you say no to that?
And with the FBI, and this is Steve, what I'm finding interesting is, you've got different sections of the FBI. Of course, you've got the FBI chasing serial killers across state lines. And then you've got the FBI and lost children, which of course is a huge priority.
And it's in some instances, it's a subset of that serial killer.
Yes. Yeah.
There are killers out there that, that's their prey. And for whatever psychological reasons, that's who they've chosen to focus on. And those are probably the toughest cases, at least the few that I've been involved in, or where you've had a child that was abused or murdered.
So could you say that, do you swing for the fences and go for the killers or the kidnappers? And in that you hope that you hope to find the missing? Or do you say, well, if we hope to find the missing, we'll find the big fish? Which is a better game plan to go with?
I don't know that you, especially on the high profile cases, these serial killer cases, I think you work everything you can and you take what you get. In the book, I probably give the dogs credit for a slightly higher level of accuracy than happens in the real world. I do that because I don't want to bore my readers to tears, but I think, one of my beta readers mentioned that to me the last time. So I think I'm going to introduce that at a certain level in either book 4 or book 5. I've already written book 3, and we're just getting into the beta reader process on that one. That, the dogs aren't infallible. And although I say that verbally a number of times in the stories, I haven't really smacked somebody yet in a story.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't really, had that, the disappointment where you think the dog is giving you something and it turns out for whatever reason that it's not correct. It's because they're not infallible. We're not infallible. And usually if there's a problem with a dog and the find is what we're interpreting, the dog may be telling you the correct thing, but you've misinterpreted. You put yourself into it. And, you always hear JW say, hey, got to trust the dog, have to trust the dog. The dog, is sometimes not smarter, but he's certainly more accurate and reliable. I had a case when I was a dog handler. I had a case of I was doing a dope search with my working dog. He was cross-trained patrol and dope, and we were searching a trailer. And in this trailer, the dog hit on a potted plant, and in the top of the potted plant, there was a partially burnt marijuana cigarette. He was, trained to find cocaine, heroin, marijuana at that point. And so he alerted on it. And I looked and I said, there's a marijuana cigarette there. Okay. Easy find there, buddy. It's right in the open. Well, what we subsequently found was if you lift that potted plant up, underneath it was a bunch of cocaine.
Oh, wow.
So, sometimes you can be the mistake, not the dog. Dog told me there was something there. I just didn't look in the right spot for him. And part of that was because it was just such a big trailer, and there was almost 100 pounds of dope in there.
Wow.
And it just reeked of marijuana. And it was like the narcotics officer I was working with said, hey, I don't need the dog for this, but work, dog needs work, just like all of us. So I turned him loose at the front door, and the dog followed a trail, worked his way underneath a dining room table and hit on a heater vent. And it was loose. So we lifted the vent up, looked inside, and there was 2.5 kilos of cocaine.
Jeez.
That they probably might have found, but maybe not. Right. But he certainly made it a lot easier to find. So, he did a good job there, and he actually did a good job in the bedroom. It was just handler screwed up. Handler error happens. And so that's something I need to bring into it, because the dogs aren't perfect. They do a good job. They do a great job. And statistically, we've shown, that we talk about in the books about working with universities to do scientific study, double blind, and establish the credibility of the dog in order for that information to be entered into a testimony in court. And so, a lot of effort was made towards gaining that and getting past the Fry standard of, that it's generally accepted within the scientific community. And the only way to do that is through repeated validation studies. And I can't tell you how much, because there's no way to measure scent. Mm-hmm. We base the results on that the dog follows it and the accuracy of the trails and things like that.
Steve, I got to ask you, is there anything that a dog can't find?
If he can't detect the scent, he can't find it. I don't want to give away too many secrets.
Sure.
But, I spent a lot of times with narcotics detection, and you'd be amazed at the dog's abilities to separate scent. The big one you see in the TV is that the dog, they hide cocaine in coffee because coffee has a stronger scent, and the dog can't smell it. And it's like, I have done a number of training practice sessions with the dog using real cocaine and real coffee. The dog finds it. So what can't they smell? What they can't smell. And, they sometimes they make mistakes when they're packaging. They're trying to get that thing so clean, but that the dog can't smell it. They seal it up Well, they're also handling the outside of it, and that still smells of it, even though they can't see it, they can't smell it. So, yeah, there are things, but most of the time, there's enough there for the dog to work.
Wow. Incredible. You know, I'm an absolute dog lover, and I find the dogs are absolutely incredible creatures. They're so incredibly talented, intelligent. They have a way of bonding with us and have ways of telling us things that sometimes we're not quite. Sometimes we're just not paying attention when it comes to what it is that they're trying to tell us.
I mean, a good dog, a good working dog is just, it's a thing to marvel. I mean, I have 2 dogs. They're both rescues.
Mm-hmm.
They're marvels, but they're not working dogs. They don't have the temperament for it.
Yeah.
But they're, you know what, they had a hard life long before they ever met me. And I figured, you know, I don't need a working dog here. It would be a joy to have, but it's a waste of the dog and the dog, all the work that's put into the dog to get them to that level. And here's 2 dogs that, you know, life had kind of gave up on. And I said, you know, no, these are good dogs. They're, you know, they're sociable and they're sweet animals. And there's a ton of, you know, I'm not the only one. There's a ton of people out there with rescues. There's whole, you know, I got mine from the German Shepherd Rescue of Orange County, California.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a ton of others. Because I have my Facebook page, I have a personal one, but I also have my Big Dogs Facebook page. And you'd be surprised of all the different German Shepherd Facebook programs and rescues and such that pop up on my page. It's like, I don't mind because they're trying to do a good thing, you know, and shepherds are just my thing. There are lots of other good dogs out there. There's lots of great dogs.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. Is there such a thing as retirement for a working dog? I mean, does a working dog get the benefit of having maybe the last years of their life to be able just to relax?
Yeah, they do. Probably harder on them than going to work because they love to work.
Mm-hmm.
My working dog, who remarkably has the same name as J.W. North's working dog in the Big Dog series, Osco. When he was about 9.5, I promoted to sergeant. And when you promote at Long Beach, you go back to your base function. So I went back to bottom of the rung patrol sergeant, not canine. So my dog, I had purchased him outright myself. Mm-hmm. You know, he's got to stay home with me. He was my dog. And that's what happens with all of our canines now is we have a nonprofit that purchases the dogs for the handler in the city to work. After the handler has had that dog for a number of years, he is given the dog by the Canine Association, and he can keep him at home when he retires. Osco stayed home with me. Now, they don't turn the switch off just like that.
Yeah.
The switch is there, and it's probably there until the day he dies. They want to go to work. And I had gotten into the habit when I was a canine handler, instead of getting my uniform on at work, putting my uniform on at work, I would do it at home because I had to drive into work in my canine unit. And so I got into the habit. Well, every time the dog would see me put the uniform on, he's wearing out the rug back and forth to the door leading to the deal. Well, he did that forever. The hardest thing I ever did was have to close that door and leave him there, and I'm going to work. So, you know, they do get to be retired. I'm not sure how much they appreciate it. They appreciate the fact that they're with their handler, but you know, they want to go to work. He wanted to go to work till the day that he died, and he loved to be in that police car and to go to work. If I was in the garage working and the police car was in the driveway, he wanted to come out of the house and jump in the back seat because at least he knew he was ready to go to work, whether I was or not.
How do you calm that anxiety then in Osco? How did you try to keep Osco somewhat satiated?
All you can do is love them. I mean, you ask why the dog does what they do, and it's for the love and approval of the handler. They love to work, but they also love that, being with their handler.
Mm-hmm.
And, you walk them, you exercise them. I take him out to the academy and let him run the obstacles and stuff. But, by then he was starting to slow down a little bit too.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can't do too much with him because you're trying to, you want to keep him in shape. But the flip side is, he can't do all the things he used to do when he was 3 or 4 years old. Now he's 10. I always kind of equate it to being a professional athlete, like a football player, how beat up they get over the course of their career. And when they finally retire, their body is all beaten, but they, in their mind, they can still play.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Well, that's the same thing with this working dog. He believes that he can still play, he can still work, but he can't. And so, yeah, you try to spend as much time with him as you can. It's similar to what I'm dealing with now with one of my dogs here. She's getting real old and she's starting to lose her back end. And you just love her. And every time I walk by her, I stop and pet her and tell her what a good girl she is. I take her on short walks. Right, we used to take her on a mile and a half, 2 mile walk, but now it's just, quarter mile or just enough where she's getting some exercise. The muscles are still getting that use and muscle memory so that she can still walk. But you can tell it's not painful for her, because if it was painful, I would have made the hard decision already. But she's struggles sometimes to walk.
Mm-hmm. That's too bad. You know what you say, making the hard decision. Is it tougher? And I hate to ask this question of you, Steve, but is it tougher for a handler such as yourself to make that decision that it is for some of us who have a dog as a pet and maybe just we have I don't want to compare and contrast love for a dog or a pet. Because a lot of us take a dog in and we consider the dog the family member and, one of us.
Yeah.
But I would think the relationship between a handler or even an officer and a canine officer to be more than just a family member. Is that especially tough for you as opposed to maybe someone who just owns a dog as a pet?
And that's a tough question because I've dealt with both. I've got my pet dogs, and I had to put my first rescue down. She had lymphoma. There's no cure for doggy lymphoma.
Mm-hmm.
And so you try to extend their life until the quality is gone. When it was time for Osco, it was rather sudden. He'd been home, being a good dog and waiting for me to come home from work. And one day I came home and he just couldn't get up. And I took him to the vet, and, they ran a bunch of tests on him and this and that. And he's dehydrated. We're going to, put him on fluids, get him some steroids and stuff, and get him kind of pumped back up. And then we'll look some more. Well, they couldn't find anything then. So I took him home, and 2 weeks later we were back. And that time they found a large mass in the abdominal region. And we didn't even, this was a dog, his back was starting to go out. He'd worked, over 8 years as a police dog. And so the best years of his life were definitely behind him. But it was, the doctor said, look, if we go in, we have a 1/3 chance that we can fix this. We have a 1/3 chance that we can fix it and it'll be back in 3 months. We have a 1/3 chance that I'm going to go in there and look and say, nope, it's not worth it at this point. Because you've got to remember, you're doing your major abdominal surgery on a dog, and he says the recovery time for that is 3 to 6 months.
Mm.
And he says, so even if we fix it, have you really bought him anything? And, stop thinking about yourself, think about the dog. What's best for the dog? And, but this is a dog that I had worked with for all those years. He was mine. He was at home with me and my family. He was shot on the line of duty, and had to bring him home and nurse him back to health, and then recertify him and go back to work again. And so, is it super hard? Absolutely. I bawled my eyes out. Mm-hmm. Is it any harder than it is for someone who has a pet dog that they love to death? I don't know that it's any harder or any easier for them. It depends on the individual, but if you love your dog enough, you're going to cry.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. That's for sure. I tell you what, Steve, let's take our break right here. When we come back, let's talk a little bit about the second book in the Big Dog series, which is out right now by Wild Blue Press. It is called Gasping for Air. I got a chance to sit down with this book, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Going to tell you a little bit about it. When we come back, we'll talk about J.W. North and Bonnie and how they've expanded the Big Dogs family. We'll do that when we come back. You're listening to the best in true crime podcasting. Our guest is S.L. Ditmars. You can get that book in the link in the description of this program right now during the break. Gasping for Air. We'll talk about it next here on True Crime Tuesday. Welcome back to the best in true crime podcasting. This is True Crime Tuesday. I'm Tim Dennis. My guest is S.L. Ditmars. The book is Gasping for Air. It's available right now on Wild Blue Press. And I tell you, folks, I got a chance to sit down this weekend and not only just peruse this book, but really get a chance to absorb this book and follow the continuing adventures of J.W. North, his wife Bonnie, and the Big Dogs Association. Again, this book of fiction is a great adventure. And one of the things, first of all, Steve, I got to tell you, as I sit with this second book, a couple things I noticed, which I kind of got to giggle at. One, J.W. North cannot enter into any case without either A, being shot at or shot, it seems. And two, this man must spend a boatload of money on coffee. The two things that, and you've got that beverage in front of you right now, which I had to admire because although I myself am a fan of the beverage, I can't drink that much due to the old ticker, but I've had to cut back my coffee consumption, but nonetheless, I can relate to JW with his love of coffee.
You'll find a lot of cops. You might as well just IV bag them coffee because it's a continual process of introducing new and fresh caffeine into the system. That's for sure.
So, Steve, what costs more in JW's world? The amount of coffee he drinks or the amount of bullets he purchases? I have to know this. Have you kept a tally as far as what costs more for him?
Well, as JW would say, bullets are cheap, but we both know that's not true. He probably, when you understand a guy like JW North and his drive at perfection, which is not really achievable, but it's something he constantly strives for. He shoots a lot, even though we don't necessarily talk about it in the book because it would probably be boring. But to have a level of proficiency that he displays in his stories, it requires a great deal of practice. So he shoots a lot, and bullets aren't cheap, especially nowadays. Coffee, on the other hand, is kind of pricey too, especially if you're like me and you do K-cups. So I don't know, it might be a tie, but I'll tell you what, looking at one of Bonnie's spreadsheets, they would both represent a significant investment.
That's for sure. And I can relate on the K-cup thing. I know it's probably not environmentally safe, but it is convenient. The K-cup is. Yeah.
It actually helps me moderate my coffee use, because otherwise I'd be making a pot at a time and drinking, probably put a straw in the pot and drink the whole thing.
Oh, that's for sure. I feel you there. So with those things, both the bullets and the coffee, we find that J.W. North has some different patterns here, Steve, which is kind of endearing. But the other thing I find endearing about J.W. North is he seems to be kind of intuitive when it comes to different people, and not only with the people that he's hunting down throughout the book, but with as we find out throughout this book, he's expanding the big dog's empire, so to speak. I don't want to call it an empire quite yet, but it's
a family.
It's a family, exactly.
Yeah.
And as he's adding to this family, he's quite intuitive about the people that he's adding to the family. Can you speak a little bit as they begin the expansion and realizing that this thing is beginning to be bigger than what they thought it was going to be, or maybe they anticipated it being bigger? What is it about his intuition that is so sharp when it comes to the people that he's adding to this family? What is it about JW that is so sharp?
Well, I think you'll find with most police officers, at least the good ones, the ones that, have that intuitive sixth sense about people. I remember when I was working patrol, I'd just be driving down the street and I'd see two people, and I immediately picked up on that there was an argument there. There was, and whether that was going to be anything or not, other than maybe a verbal argument, but you pay attention for a few seconds before you make a decision to dismiss and continue or stop and, hey, what's going on? And, you guys having a problem here? So I think good cops, through exposure, they pick up on it. And whether it's nonverbal cues, maybe it's a sixth sense, maybe it's all the above. But I found that, in my case, I'm pretty good at getting a read on people fairly quickly. In the case of, JW, he's decided, well, let me take a step back there. Bonnie has decided that this thing is bigger than JW realizes, and that they're going to need more space and they're going to need help. Mm-hmm. And as JW looks at it, he says, yeah, this is more than just, him and Ben. And in the second book, Ben gets his own dog, and that program expands, but dogs get hurt, dogs get old, people get old, so JW recognizes the need to have some dogs in a pipeline, or a solid pipeline. He's been getting his dogs from Europe. Does he try to do the hard thing and raise dogs and go to all that work, or does he continue? And that was pretty much what we did in police work, as our dogs were important. But the dogs he's working with are much more specialized than a normal police dog. Well, meanwhile, Bonnie is looking at the big picture, and she says, we need more room. We're living in, Southern California, and there your neighbors are right on top of you, unless you've got even more money than Bonnie has. Mm-hmm. And so you need space, you need room to breathe. If you're going to have a kennel of dogs, you're going to need to be away from other people, or else you're going to have people mad at you all the time about dogs barking. Mm-hmm. And so she sees all this. She sees the need to grow And JW, on almost an intuitive sense, sees what that looks like and how it needs to be developed. So, and that's why they make such a great pair together. Bonnie sees things he doesn't, and he sees things that everybody wonders about. And somehow through that, though, he comes up with a plan that works, and he gets the stuff done. But he can't do it without her.
Yeah,
It's it's a team, and it always has been. But at the same time, there are things that JW and Bonnie can't do, or they don't have the time to do because they're so busy doing other things. And so the team's got to grow. Team has to grow. They've got to find a new place to be, and picking the right kind of people for that can be a challenge. And in the story, I probably don't spend as much time background, but JW does have kind of a sense about people, mm-hmm. and he can tell pretty quickly whether or not this is somebody he's going to want to work with it. And they don't have to be a dog handler. They just have to have the desire to do the work. You can teach people to do certain things.
Yeah, most definitely. Meanwhile, JW has gone from working locally with the Long Beach Police Department and keeping that foot in that water like he always promised, to he knew eventually the FBI would come calling and want them and want big dogs basically for themselves. And he's being dragged further and further by the FBI. Tell us a little bit more about how it is that he gets tighter and tighter to the FBI, and yet still maintains a foothold as being a U.S. Marshal, which is very interesting.
Yeah. Well, and sorry about that. I hit the mic.
No problem.
That's real. If you're working with the FBI and you're not an FBI agent, they don't make you an FBI agent. You pick up a U.S. Marshal credential. And I make fun of the FBI on that in this story, but that's just the way they work. And I don't know that I understand their rationale. I've asked people that have worked with the FBI, why do they do things like that? It seems like kind of a backwards thing, but they, for whatever reason, have chosen that's how they're gonna do things. It's like, okay. So the marshals thing is real world stuff. You'll be part of a task force. Well, when we ended the first book, we were in Las Vegas, and JW is trailing a serial killer there, helping Las Vegas PD. And Las Vegas doesn't know it, but JW, at least on a base level, feels this is his final test, final exam from the FBI. And he knows that he's got to nail this trail, but, you can't put that kind of pressure on the dog. So he has to kind of divorce that feeling from himself. You heap a lot of pressure on the dog, and they may not perform at their best. So you do your best of trying to make the real trails like the training, and the training like the real trails, mm-hmm. so that the dog is working comfortably. So, there's the big confrontation at the hotel and the big shootout, and then we start the second story the next day, literally. And JW is still dealing emotionally with the issues that he had to deal with, having a team member injured, that sudden violence right there in front of him, unexpected, expected on a base level, but not really expected at that moment. And so we use the press conference and that aspect to kind of bring that story back in, pull in how you do trailing, why you do trailing, and reestablish all of that, and then what happened behind him. Some of that's in a dream, some of it's there. So you get caught back up, and then JW goes back to Southern California. He's made an important contact in Las Vegas, and that's Maddox Christensen, who is this mega billionaire who owned the hotel where they found the last suspect. and he's got an interest, and he's one of these people that sees the potential of what JW is doing, and he wants to, in whatever way he can, help that. And eventually he will also become a member of the Big Dogs family. But right now, he's just somebody on the sidelines that wants to help. They go back home, and it's like, well, we did everything they asked. Well, right then, COVID's coming out. And so everybody in law enforcement, in one way or another, is dealing with that. And so, JW is sitting on his hands going, come on, let's go. I'm ready to work. And, the world's on pause. Mm-hmm. But he finally gets that phone call, and he goes back east, and he meets with the director, and they work out this procedure of how they're going to do things. And one of the things that has been bothering JW, and fortunately for him, the lead FBI agent that's kind of coordinating this task force that he's joining, Laura Lynn, she has picked up on it too, because she's had to deal with it as a member of this task force. And that's the JW, and the dogs are an expendable resource at their base level. That dog can only do so many trails. You can only stick him on a plane or have him drive somewhere so many times before the dog is exhausted and can't function anymore. And so JW is concerned about that. He wants to kind of express that to the director that, hey, we need to stay focused on important cases. But you also need to understand that sometimes I'm going to have to run a trail that doesn't meet that standard for a local jurisdiction, because it's part of keeping up good relations. And sometimes it's just the right thing to do. Mm-hmm. And Laura Lynn chips in with, I've dealt with this. I've had to say, yes and no to families who've got a lost child, and they're desperate for help. And you have to try to decide, is this a lost child, somebody that's been kidnapped, by a predator, or is this a kid that ran away? And the emotional anguish that goes with that is something that's Laura Lynn recognizes, but JW is concerned about. And so he and the FBI director kind of come to an agreement about how they'll deal with this. And then later in the story, it comes up that, the FBI director has a problem and he needs JW, but it's kind of breaking that agreement. And how do you deal with that?
Yeah, and very interesting indeed. And meanwhile, in the background, and the story is a very busy story, which I like. I actually love about your books is that there are many stories contained within the one story. Sure. Meanwhile, you still have the Shadow doing what he's doing in the background. That case is still unsolved, yet he's still on the loose and going after the women he's going after and doing what he's doing. You have another villain named the Truck Stop Killer, who is on the loose and trying to baffle the FBI. And there's a confrontation of sorts with him in there. And you have yet another serial killer that rears his ugly head towards the end of this book as well.
Yeah, and when I decided to write this story, and credibility of the story, in other words, is this believable? Mm-hmm. Or is it just so far out there that it's not? We've jumped the shark. So one of the things I looked at was, well, how do you have a resource like Aries and Addie and JW, obviously? How do you have that resource and make it believable to the reader that this could be a real deal? So, initially we started in Southern California in Long Beach. Mm-hmm. And that was an obvious choice because I worked there 28 years. I was born there, lived most of my life there. And so it was easy for me to pick that because I know it so well and it was comfortable. And, I had just moved from there at that point. But you can only have so many serial killers in that Southern California area. Mm-hmm. So to keep it credible, I decided he needed to be part of a task force. He needed to be able to be mobile, move from one place to another. And in reality, I think I mentioned this the last time when Billy, my handler, was working. We worked a serial case in Alaska with the FBI. So, he did travel around with his dog. And it was important for me to maintain that credibility. So I established that this was going to be a, national level team. And, who knows, down the line, maybe we'll do a little trip somewhere to spice it up a little. But right now, there's plenty of interesting places to go in this country. A lot of places people have never heard of. And so there's lots of locations. I don't have to go to Europe to find interesting locations because I bet money that one of the principal locations in the third book, which will be coming out sometime soon, and it's a beautiful place, and I bet you a lot of people have never heard. So maybe the Colorado Bureau of Tourism will be sending me a thank you letter.
At least, if not a free trip.
I can go out there and we can lay out in this place the JW North Trail, and people can go out and experience all the things JW did.
We had talked a little bit before the show about, the fact that there are so many areas within the United States that people just don't realize, or they don't realize the natural beauty that's out there, or different places that people have never been to before or never seen within the United States that are within a drive. So there are a lot of really beautiful places out there, Steve, around the United States that people don't realize. They don't leave their homes all that often, or maybe they don't get to vacation around the United States and see all this beauty that's out there. So I got to ask you, you just mentioned that there's this place out there that you're going to take JW North to in the third book. I would ask you, do you have a wish list out there of places that you'd like to take JW North to and Big Dogs to? That you may, and you don't have to do a spoiler on any of the places that you're planning on in the third, maybe even fourth books. But do you have a wish list maybe in your head of places you'd like to take JW North and Big Dogs to in the future? Yeah, I do. I can give this one up. I want to take JW to the Corvette Museum. It's actually in Bowling Green, Kentucky, and I want to take JW there because I want to go there to see the Corvette Museum. Okay.
JW and I share a love of Corvettes. Now, JW has not acquired one yet. He may sometime in the future. He used to have one, as if you've read, as I know you have, you've read the books.
Yep.
He had a Corvette and he really wants another one. And so he loves all things Corvette and he wants to go to the museum. And I'm thinking at some point I'm going to have to go to the museum so that I can verify.
I see. Well, of course, yes. Research, all in the name of research. Yeah.
Well, and it's just important for me that I get it right. I want it to be authentic.
Well, yeah, it has to be. Yeah. So, yeah.
If I don't go there, it could destroy my credibility with my readers, and that could be devastating to the entire Big Dogs project.
It could be, yes. Yeah. So I can definitely see why you would need to do some research there. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I have to ask you too, as well, when you're coming up with, and I'm going to switch gears a little bit here on you, Steve, when you're coming up with the the villains, as you will, with these books. When you're doing, when you're coming up with them, are you drawing from real life profiles of different serial killers? Or are you taking an amalgamation of different serial killers? How are you coming up with some of the profiles of some of these killers?
Yeah. I've only really one time so far used a lot of one individual, but generally what I do is I build an amalgamation. Mm-hmm. I'll read a number of serial killer books. And in my mind, from those different killers, I will pull bits and pieces to build a more interesting character for the readers. Although the guys, to me, are extremely interesting just to start with, just because they're crazier than hell. But that's another subject. Mm-hmm. But just how they do things and trying to understand what drives them, what motivates them, and the problem is I don't know that you will truly understand it because you're not as crazy as they are.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I do read a lot. I just finished a book by Ann Rule, and it was on the I-5 killer. And interestingly, Ann Rule was the first serial killer book I read, and that was The Stranger Beside Me, mm-hmm. and that was about Bundy.
Oh, yeah.
And so that was a book my mom gave me, and ever since then, my life has been spiraling downhill by interest in serial killers. But for me, having come from law enforcement, it's trying to understand them so that we could catch them, and that's what drives JW. He gets a lot of information from the FBI. And then he's in the second book, he's developing a friendship with Laura Lynn Guardia, the FBI agent that's in charge of the task force. And up to now, it's been not adversarial, but moments of adversarial. So, she understands JW wants to learn. So she's giving him these books that he can read to gain a better understanding to help him catch serial killers. And she understands his motivation, and JW will eventually come to understand hers, which is she wants to talk to them to try to gain a better understanding to help her catch them. And there's a whole sub-story there about Laura Lynn. It goes through the first two books and what drives her, what motivates her. And I don't want to give that up for the readers.
Right.
But, things like that can serve as a lifelong motivator. And in her case, it has. But where JW wants to, grab a hold of them and catch them, she's interested in understanding them so that she can send JW to catch them. And so as the story develops, they develop a partnership of recognizing each other's strengths and weaknesses, just like Bonnie recognizes JW's strengths and weaknesses, and they complement each other.
You bring up an interesting dynamic in Laura Lynn and in JW and them beginning to understand each other, because I think when JW first starts out, it's very black and white to him, especially after his first confrontation with the Shadow. And that is this, that in his eyes, just get rid of the guy. If he's evil, just get rid of him. He's not doing any good hanging around. No. Either get rid of him by putting him in jail, or get rid of him by, if I have to, if he's using lethal force against me, I'll use lethal force against him. Just get rid of him.
Yeah.
And I think it's unusual for him that Laura Lynn wants to capture them and understand them. To him, it's foreign. And I think you do a very good job of actually fleshing out why, Laura Lynn's trying to get him to understand why we need to understand these people. And because in JW's mind, I don't get this. Why do you even need to understand these people? It's either catch them or kill them.
Yeah. And JW, he gets a little upset because it's like, gee, would she sacrifice me to spend 5 minutes chatting with a serial killer.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
To him, he's spent a lifetime doing dangerous things at different levels.
Mm-hmm.
And now here he's all his hard work has come together. Him being injured in the first book kind of sets him back and almost to zero. And he has to rebuild all of that. And then he latches onto this idea of this scent trailing program. And so he works hard to do that. And he finally gets that all dialed in. And in the, this confrontation in Las Vegas, boom, the bad guy resists, shoots at them, and then he is killed by the Las Vegas Metro SWAT team.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, JW is like, happy ending.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Yep.
And whether that's right or wrong morally, but the way he looks at it is just like you said, this guy is a threat to society. What can I do to eliminate that threat so that people don't get hurt, so that this sickest of the sick cannot continue to prey upon society? And to him, the guy is a collateral damage in terms of if he's killed or if he's injured or whatever else. The important thing is protecting the victims and himself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is a rather simplistic way of looking at things. And you're right. JW does see it as black and white to him, but he doesn't understand Laura Lynn and all the things that make this come to be, make it so that he can catch these people and take them out of society, whether through violence or through apprehension. And that's kind of hard for him to grasp, but it's something that he will come to terms with.
And I think he'll find out down the line, and I think we're coming to that towards the end of the second book, that he's realizing that by learning their modus operandi, it'll help him in his job in trailing some of these folks.
Sure. The reality is that he may be on in the first case in the second book, the truck stop killer.
Mm-hmm.
He's there before they are. So all those wonderful analysis and profiling tools and all of that, JW has just got to go with what he knows, and that's find the bad guy and catch him. And, at that point, all this other stuff kind of takes second nature. So if he can gain a better understanding of how all that works, it'll make it easier for him to work in a cooperative environment, because he'll understand where they're coming from and what their priorities are. But also, in the absence of those tools, he can pick up at least a little bit of the slack. Now, that may come to bite him in the butt at some point down the line, because JW often is a little proud and makes some mistakes because of his pride and his belief that, he knows what he's doing and doesn't necessarily always need these other people. And that's a theme I think you will see, not repeatedly, but you'll see it more than once as a background theme, that his self-confidence sometimes is his own undoing.
Very interesting indeed. I want to encourage you guys to go out and get this second book. It's called Gasping for Air. Our guest is Steve S.L. Ditmars is the name you'll find it under. It's book 2 in the Big Dog series. It's available right now at wildbluepress.com. We'll have a link in the description of this show. Steve, I want to thank you so much for being with us today.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Always a pleasure to come on here and chat with you and talk to your listeners about this. I'm very grateful for the opportunity. It's a fun way to spend a couple hours just chatting and talking about what goes on behind the scenes in creating the books, because you don't put that in the book necessarily. So it's kind of fun to talk about some of the mechanics that go into how these characters are developed, or how I develop them,
Mm-hmm.
and how the stories are developed. It's fun. The third book is coming. We're right now in the beta read stage. So I'm hoping to have that to Wild Blue within the next few months. And then a few months after that, it will be out and ready for you guys. And I'm looking forward to continuing our discussion.
Yes. Yeah.
Chatting about J.W. North and how his life is changing.
Do you have a title yet for that third one?
I'm sorry?
Do you have a title yet for that third one?
I think it's something you can relate to. We have a working title, has not been approved yet.
Okay.
But the working title is Ghost Stories.
Ah, all right.
See, so there's a unplanned, because that book's been named long before I knew you.
Okay.
But and there are some ghost stories in there.
Huh. All right.
So shifting slightly into my interest in the paranormal.
Well, there you go. I'll look forward to that third one as well. But in the meantime, folks, Gasping for Air, it's available right now on Wild Blue Press. We encourage you to click that link in the description of the show and go get your copy of it right now. It is available and ready for you. I got to tell you, folks, I really, really enjoyed this second book, this Adventures of J.W. North and the Big Dogs series. Steve, I got to tell you, you did it again, my friend. It was quite the enjoyable read and quite the quick read as well. So,
yeah. I've found from people that have read the books that those that really enjoy it, it's boom, it's over with. It's like, where's the next one?
Mm-hmm.
Did you read all the last one? We've already got one review up on Amazon on Gasping for Air, and the book's only been out for a few days.
Yeah.
And it was a very favorable review, by the way.
Good.
But
good.
It's just amazing how fast people can get through the stories and that they do enjoy them. So, yeah, I hope our listeners, do pick up Gasping for Air. And, of course, if you haven't read the first book, Big Dogs, book 1 in the Big Dog series, pick that one up, too. There's a great special on Amazon right now. I think you can get both books for under $4.
Oh, wow.
So as an ebook.
Yep.
So if you're an ebook reader, jump on that right now. I know we're also doing a promotion through someone that there's for 20 copies of the first story. Or no, I'm sorry, the second story.
Okay.
Get confused. As I get more and more books out there, it's hard to keep track of them all. But that book's available, and I think it's an enjoyable read. I've read it so many times, and yet every time I pick it up, it's like saying hi to an old friend that you haven't seen for a little while.
Yeah,
and you go through. I didn't remember that was there, and it's always fun. I always enjoy that aspect.
Absolutely. S.L. Ditmars is our guest. Gasping for Air is the title of the book. Go out and get it today. Steve, I want to thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me. Have a great day.
Thank you. You as well. Folks, it's time to, not like it wasn't light enough, but it's time now to lighten it up just a bit. It's time now for us to go to Beer City Bruiser, and it's time now for Dumb Crimes and Stupid Criminals.
It's Crayon News story time.
What happened with this dude, Christ Bearer? I heard he cut his penis off and then jumped off a balcony.
Suspect pulls gun from butt, shoots twice at Denver police.
What is your emergency?
I need help.
And what's the problem?
I'm too high.
You're too high?
Yeah.
It's that time again, that time you all look forward to here on True Crime Tuesday. It's time for Dumb Crimes and Stupid Criminals. And with Dumb Crimes and Stupid Criminals, we need ourselves a co-host. So we go out and get the best co-host we can, the host with the most, the BCB, the Big Cuddly Bear, Beer City Bruiser. How you doing, Bruiser?
I'm doing fantastic, Cruiser. You got a little bit of a Florida glow going on right there. Look at you.
It's a farmer glow. Yeah, that's all it is. It's just my face and the back of my hands.
But still, you look sunny. You look like you got out of the cold weather for a bit.
Oh yeah. You know what? In fact, I hate to complain, but it was too hot.
It was too hot. No, it's not. Come on.
Yeah. We were the only place in the nation, as everybody was freezing, where it was like 81 degrees the entire time. And I thought, this is too hot. I didn't like it.
See, I love weather like that. That's why we live where we live.
Hey,
I'm done with snow. I don't mind cold. I don't mind rain, but snow. Nope.
It was, when we left, it was snowing. It was just starting to snow and the temp was around 20 degrees, but it was falling. The temp was falling. And while we were gone, it was down in the single digits the entire time, like 1 degree, which I was grateful I got away from that for a while. But then when we got back, it was still 1 degree. So I don't know, it was kind of like, well, why the hell did I even leave town? But yeah, that's just the way that was. Well, I mean, I know why I left town. I'll say it twice. I'll say it once today, once tomorrow. Congratulations to my nephew and his new fiance. They got engaged at Disneyland or Disney World. I'm sorry, Disney World. Because that's the one that's in Florida. But yeah, so the kid popped the question.
Yeah, congratulations. Now, is that the one that jams on the Van Halen guitar you have?
No. That's
it's a different one.
Yeah,
okay.
Second oldest nephew that does that. But yeah, this is the oldest nephew. This is the one who at 5 years old said I was the best uncle ever.
And you've been living up to it ever since, haven't you?
I'm trying, but you can't buy a kid a video game system every year for Christmas. So, yeah. But yeah, he that was one of the best memories I ever had. And all it was one of those, I forget what it was at the time, but it was one of the Nintendo handhelds.
Oh, like a Game Boy?
Yeah, I think it was probably a Game Boy and a bunch of games, which, but for a 5-year-old, that was the best thing ever.
Oh, I remember getting Game Boy. It was the greatest thing in the world.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You can take my video games with me?
Yep. Yeah. He thought that was great. So he was also the nephew that told me I was taking him to a movie. I don't remember which movie at the time. I think it was probably a Spider-Man movie. And someone cut me off in traffic. I started swearing at him. And from the back seat, I heard, well, if you wouldn't drive so fast, you wouldn't get that. The wisdom of little ones. So,
yes.
Yeah. But yeah, so he's soon to be locked down, ball and chain. So,
well, congratulations.
Yeah. So there you go. So congrats, Tyler and Maya. Let's see here. Dumb crime, stupid criminals. Boy, oh boy, have they been busy since we've been gone.
Well, the world doesn't stop when we go on vacation, does it? That's
true. It turns out here, Bruiser, we've got animals involved galore here. If we're trying to how should I put this? Softly present this today, because there are some animals that are done unto and some animals that are doing unto, if that makes sense.
Okay, yeah. Okay. Yeah, I get it. Who?
So it's a little dicey, and of course, at the end of this program, it's not safe for work.
No, of course.
Yes,
the boobies and beer and boobies segment.
Well, maybe something else. Yeah. So we've got that coming up at the end of Dumb Crime, Stupid Criminals. Let's jump into it, shall we? We're starting off via Oregon, and somewhere in Canada. I don't know. Canada comes into this via a man from Canada, but it is in Oregon.
Okay.
The Coast Guard rescues a Canadian man wanted in a bizarre Goonies incident in Oregon.
Well, you're going to live up into a movie. That's the movie to live up to.
That is, yeah. I'll explain. The U.S. Coast Guard last week announced the rescue of a man in Oregon who was wanted in connection with a bizarre harassment incident involving a dead fish. We're beginning our animal segment right off the top, if you can't tell.
Shouldn't harass dead fish. Leave them alone. They're dead.
That's right. The Coast Guard on last Friday released footage of its rescue of Jericho Labonte, a Canadian man who was struggling to manage a yacht in the Columbia River near Astoria, Oregon. Labonte was pulled from the waters by a diver and taken to a nearby hospital for treatment of mild injuries. He was subsequently released. After his release, however, police became aware that he was wanted in connection with a bizarre incident in which he allegedly left a dead fish on the porch of the famous Goonies home in the small coastal city.
Is he mad that it's up for sale or something?
I guess. A man in nearby Warrenton later reported stolen the yacht from which Labonte was reportedly rescued, while one local resident reportedly revealed that he had taken Labonte fishing shortly before the fish incident. Labonte was subsequently arrested by authorities in the area. It's really been an odd 48 hours, Astoria Police Chief Stacy Kelly told the media.
That would be really weird.
Yeah. So we started off Dumb Crimes, Stupid Criminals with a Goonies incident.
Can the accomplice be held as an accomplice because he took him fishing? Can they link the fish to him?
I don't think it can get that bizarre.
I don't think so either, but imagine if it did.
Yeah. I think there comes a certain point where you stop being an accomplice.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you're just out on a fishing trip. Yeah, I think that's for sure.
I got to start every fishing trip now with any fish we catch, you plan on keeping them, not leaving them on the Goonies doorstep, right?
Right, yeah, exactly, exactly. You know, Bruiser, I went out with the purest intentions this last week of capturing Florida Man on film.
Yeah, how'd that go?
On video, it didn't. For some reason, they seemed well behaved around me. I did go out for a short period and try to, I went to different places in Pasco County. We went up to Tarpon Springs one day and walked around. I tried to get some footage of someone talking to me that would you'd hear the slight banjo twanging in the background, and maybe we could get an interview. It didn't happen.
You didn't go to any trailer parks or anything? That's where they're all at.
No, I didn't want to venture that deep into enemy territory, and hence I become a news story.
We'd be reporting about you, huh?
Right. Yeah, I wanted to go to somewhat safe property where I could flee quickly and get into a vehicle and get away. Didn't happen that way though, and I'm sorry I disappointed you, but there may be opportunities here in the future. Okay. Yeah. So if and when I get that footage, I'll post it to our social media sites, and I'll post it onto our website. But probably for the best, especially since I read this next news story. I think
hopefully if we can't replace victim with you. Yeah. Like it wasn't someone getting poop thrown at him or something.
No, I wouldn't have. I definitely would have. If I would have went into Pasco County with the idea of I was going to conduct an interview, I wouldn't have gone in costume, and it wouldn't have been as a python. Let me explain why. Florida man Kevin Justin Mayorga bit the head off a pet python in a fight. So I know this much: don't dress up as a python when you interview Florida man. Yeah. Yeah. Florida man has been arrested for allegedly biting the head off a pet python in the middle of a domestic dispute, according to police. 22-year-old Kevin Justin Mayorga is accused of sinking his teeth into the snake after he got into an argument with a woman in a Cutler Bay apartment early on Monday.
What? I'm wondering what led to this, because you're not Ozzy.
Well, I don't think Ozzy even took a chance with a snake. I know that much.
No, Ozzy was always, it was supposed to be what was it? It was
a bat.
It was a bat, and they handed him a dove, and he did it with the dove.
Did he do it with a dove?
Yeah, at the record signing.
Yeah, I think. Well, now look, Oz is slowing way down now. He's announced that he's not touring anymore or anything like that because of injuries. But yeah,
I wonder how big this snake was too, because pythons' heads get really big.
Yeah. Cops encountered the decapitated python after they responded to reports of the domestic incident just after 5:30 a.m. on Monday. The officers reported hearing a man and a woman screaming inside the apartment before the female shouted for police to just kick the door in. Jeez. Mayorga subsequently blocked officers from entering and briefly held the woman against her will, according to police. An officer tried to use a taser on Mayorga after he refused orders to come out with his hands up, but he was unable to subdue him. Man.
That's terrifying when tasers don't work.
Yeah, you could tell you're a little hyped up on something when that happens.
Yeah.
Mayorga allegedly struck another cop in the face with a handcuff when that officer tried to detain him. Police found the snake and its severed head near the front door After Mayorga was eventually detained, the woman told officers that Mayorga had bitten the pet's head off during their argument.
Oh.
The relationship between Mayorga and the woman wasn't immediately known. Well, I know this much. It wasn't snake charmer and client. He is facing charges of animal cruelty with intent to kill, false imprisonment, and resisting arrest. Mayorga is being held on how much bond, Bruiser?
Oh, this has got to be $1,500.
A little higher.
Okay, let's go 3. 3,000.
I'll give you one more chance.
$3,500.
It is $15,000 bond.
Wow.
Yep. Evidently, the authorities in Florida love snakes. So there you go.
Well, don't they have a thing down there where you can if you kill enough snakes and bring them in, they pay you for it because they're such nuisance animals?
What? Really?
Yeah. There's a TV show based on that called Killing It with one of the Daryl from The Office. And like I looked it up, and I guess it's not as flashy as the show. Obviously, they make it, comedy and all that. But yeah, because they're such an invasive species that if you kill them and bring them in, they pay you for the bodies.
Wow, I don't know.
But this is a pet, so
I can't answer that. I don't know. Let's move on to Hong Kong, shall we? Where if you thought the snake wouldn't get a bit of retribution if no one was defending the snake's honor, a pig in Hong Kong and a slaughterhouse definitely is.
This pig is revolting.
This pig got revenge. A pig killed a butcher in a Hong Kong slaughterhouse.
How do you like it? Oink.
How do you like it when you bring that big cleaver down on someone? A pig appears to have gotten the ultimate revenge in a Hong Kong slaughterhouse, knocking over and killing a butcher with the cleaver about to be used on him.
Nice. Good for you, pig. That'll do, pig. That'll do.
That'll do. Police told CNN that the pig had been shot with an electric stun gun at the Shengshui slaughterhouse on last Friday when it suddenly woke and pounced on a 61-year-old worker. Boy, that'll be the last time that 61-year-old worker does anything with a pig, won't it be?
Well, he's dead.
Yeah. The swine knocked over his would-be slaughterer, who seemingly dropped his 15-inch meat cleaver onto his own foot.
Oh, ow.
Another worker found the butcher, named by local media as Kai, with the cleaver in his head and his left foot bleeding profusely from the wound. He was rushed by ambulance to a local hospital, but was pronounced dead, the local report said. Hong Kong's Labor Department confirmed Friday that it was investigating a fatal work incident. Police stressed to CNN that the cause of death has yet to be officially determined. The reports did not say what happened to the apparent killer pig. My guess is they left him alone.
They let him free. He really went to a farm.
They looked at him and went, "You're free to go."
How'd the cleaver end up in his head when the initial report is he got hit and it fell on his foot?
Ninja pig.
Oink.
The Labor Department. Here's the statement from the department. It says the Labor Department is saddened by the death of the person and expresses the person is all it says. It doesn't even identify Kai. Is saddened by the death of the person and expresses its deepest sympathy to his family. We will complete the investigation as soon as possible to identify the cause of the accident, ascertain the liability of the duty holders, and recommend improvement measures. We will take action pursuant to the law if there's any violation of the work safety legislation, a department spokesman went on to say. The city's Food and Environmental Hygiene Department, which manages slaughterhouses, said it was very concerned about the work incident. The department expresses its deepest condolences to the deceased family and has requested the contractor to provide all necessary assistance to his family. It noted, however, that the slaughtering service remains normal and the supply of fresh meat is not affected.
Well, that's good. We still get our bacon. All right.
Meanwhile, there's a pig on the loose in Hong Kong.
And now the Labor Department's got to meet with the pig union, and it's just a giant mess.
Yeah, it's horrible. Horrible, I say.
Well, good for you, Phineas the pig.
Meanwhile, here in the States, Bruiser, and as of, this was as of, I think, 3 or 4 days ago, here in good old Minnesota, we didn't want to be left out.
Oh, of course not. Oh, of course not.
You never want to cross a hot chick with a chicken.
No, you don't?
No. I was actually alerted to this story by a listener. I didn't believe it when I first was told of it. Then I ran across it. And I thought, no way, this is real.
Yeah.
An assault charge for a woman and a poultry pummeling. That's right, folks. A 36-year-old woman who's actually quite hot. It's the hot ones you got to worry about.
Yeah, anything's a weapon to the hot ones.
That's right. Hit her beau in the head with a whole chicken. It's a waste of a good chicken.
Well, I've been hit with chicken before.
Have you?
Hell yeah.
You've been hit with a chicken.
Yeah, we've when we're bored on the road, we did one time. We were bored at I forget what, we were in Texas. We stopped by a grocery store and we got some of those Cornish hens because they were perfect. Put your fists in, and we chicken box, we Cornish hen box.
Chicken boxing.
Which hurts more than you would think, because that's not padding.
No.
That's muscle and bone.
That's right. And there's not
we thought it'd be like padding.
No, there's not as much muscle either around the bone on a Cornish game hen.
Lots of broken noses and black eyes.
Yeah. Oh, Bruiser. A Minnesota woman was jailed for domestic assault after allegedly clobbering her boyfriend in the head with a whole chicken. According to cops who reported that the victim still had some chicken residue in his hair when they responded to the 911 call for assistance. I want to hear that call.
So, 911, what's your emergency? I just got hit by a chicken.
My woman's hit me with a chicken, you know. It's got to go like that.
Yeah.
Hey, my lady's beating me with a chicken. You got to come get her. You got to get her. The victim told cops he was driving home to the Eagle Lake residence he shares with 36-year-old Natalie Brummer when he was attacked. The man who had been he'd been at a bar with Brummer, said she was hitting him and spitting in his face as they were en route home.
Yeah, so, we stopped at the pub, had a few brewskis, and decided to get some chicken for dinner. Yeah,
she was down in some ham, so I said, go good with the hams, if you stuff a can of hams up its tutor and you put her on a barbecue grill for about, an hour, you got beer-flavored chicken. She said, you know what, I'm going to stuff up its tutor, your head.
And she didn't like that too much, so she started hitting me.
Yeah, so she started pummeling me with the chicken, Upon arriving at their residence, the man alleged Brummer hit him with a whole chicken in the back of the head. And then hijinks ensued, and you could hear the Three Stooges in the background. And according to a probable cause statement, victim still had some chicken residue in his hair, according to police. When cops sought to place Brummer under arrest, I almost said she snuggled with him, but she struggled with them and began pulling her hands away from the officers, requiring multiple attempts to get her handcuffed. While being escorted from the home, Brummer reportedly continued to yell, attempted to pull her arms away from the officers, and she kicked her legs around.
Good. No. Not me. No, not me.
Why are you arresting me for hitting him with a chicken? He had it coming.
It's not me. He called me a dumbass.
Charged with domestic assault and obstructing police, both misdemeanors. Brummer, I'll show you the picture in a minute of Miss Brummer, their bruiser, was booked into the Blue Earth County Jail. Brummer was arrested in December of 2021 for assaulting the same man identified as the victim in this past incident. The couple's been together for more than 10 years. through
They might
many...
want to rethink their drinking habits, because I have a feeling in the first one drinking was involved.
Yeah, I think so. Drinking and food shopping don't mix, evidently. The 2021 misdemeanor case, by the way, is still pending. Court records do not indicate whether the chicken allegedly wielded by Brummer was cooked or raw, or whether the victim was injured by the poultry strike. Here, let me see.
Got a little bit of the chicken pox.
A little bit of the chicken pox. Here is the lovely Miss Brummer.
Oh, yeah, she's pretty cute.
Yeah. I'd take a chicken to the head for her.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure.
She's like that older, not in her prime, but still not,
she's
ragged.
She's in her mid-30s.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, she's good.
She looks like somebody you meet at a Minnesota bar.
Exactly. Yeah. She's a sturdy Blue Earth County gal.
Yeah. She's a good hard, after a long day at the mill.
A long day at the mill. Listen to
Go to
you.
the bar. There she is.
She's out there farming taconite or whatever they do up in Blue Earth County. Let's just pull out all the stereotypes of northern Minnesota. After milling taconite all day, she comes home from the bar and gets a chicken from the grocery store. Do you suppose it was one of those roasted chickens from the grocery store?
$5.99 ones that you can get.
Yeah,
They're always on sale.
Because I'm not cooking tonight,
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll get a pint of mashed potatoes from the deli, and then we'll get one of them there rotisserie chickens, and I'll beat you over the head with it.
How's this for you? Is this doing anything for you, huh? Come on, is this doing anything for you?
Do I look better now than Natalie? Do I? Huh?
That's the thing, is he probably ordered one too many beers from the hot bartender.
Yeah. And he stayed a little too long to talk to her when.
Yeah, she probably said, "You don't need another beer."
Yep.
Yeah, I do there.
I'll go up and order the beers from now on, so you don't talk to her over there.
Yeah.
That's how it went down, I'm sure. If you think getting battered with chicken is bad, how about we snap into a Slim Jim? Oh, yeah. Turns out that a female shoplifter battered a store clerk with a pair of Slim Jims.
How do you get battered with Slim? They hurt.
They do. It's like
they're like whips.
It's like getting whipped with delicious meat.
If you can call it meat.
Well, it is. It's seasoned mystery meat.
Yeah, it's like Spam.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. We go back to Florida, where a Florida woman battered a convenience store clerk with a pair of Slim Jim beef sticks. Seen one too many commercials with the Macho Man. After being accused of shoplifting. Cops allege that 40-year-old Casey Briazelli was confronted Monday afternoon by the female victim at the exit doors to the store, which is adjacent to a Citgo gas station. Briazelli pushed the victim to get past and then struck the 34-year-old clerk with 2 Slim Jim beef sticks she was stealing. Are those?
Oh, she was stealing them too.
Yeah.
I'm not stealing these Slim Jims.
Are those Slim Jims in your hand, or are you just happy to see me?
I was just playing drums. That's all.
That's right. Officer Joshua Kokazel of the Pinellas Park Police Department was on the scene to try to break up this Slim Jim thievery. The clerk was not injured in the Slim Jim attack, thank God. And thank the spirit of Macho Man. Police did not seize the beef sticks as evidence, by the way.
No, they didn't? Come on, put that in a bag.
I think they put them right back on the shelf. They're still sellable if you don't break the cellophane. So, yeah.
Yeah.
I have a picture of Miss Brizelli as well that I'll show you here in a minute, Bruiser.
Is she worth a Slim Jim slap?
Not as pleasing.
Not as much as a chicken slap.
No. I think she probably swings a Slim Jim a lot harder than Miss Blue Earth County that we were talking about earlier before. Brizelli reportedly admitted to the battery after being read her rights. Charged with battery theft and resisting a merchant. That's a charge?
Yeah, that's like if you go to Walmart and you steal something and you make it through the front door. Like, and the police had to do an investigation. They charge you with that also.
Really? Resisting a merchant, huh?
Yeah, it's to keep the merchants safe, I guess.
Okay. Brizelli is being held in the county jail in lieu of how much bond?
Oh, for Slim Jim?
Yeah.
500.
A little higher.
Okay, $1,000. Really? 2,500.
So close. $2,650.
$2,650. Okay,
Yep.
That's some expensive Slim Jim.
Yeah, it is.
Oh yeah, that's why he sponsored it. Dig it.
Brizelli, who is alternately described as a transient and a St. Petersburg resident in court records, has a lengthy rap sheet that includes several state prison stays and convictions for cocaine possession, burglary, trafficking and stolen property, and theft. And here, Bruiser, I'll give you a look at Ms. Brizelli, and you tell me, could she have stored those in a different area other than having them out in the open?
Yes, she could have.
Doesn't she look like she smuggled a few things into prison?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
She doesn't have a hard time in prison.
No, not at all. I think people follow her lead in prison,
Yeah.
not the other way around. So yeah, she definitely she runs the block, as they say.
Do you think they'll let her have Slim Jims in prison?
Probably not. Or if they do, she's the one who ends up stealing them from the other inmates. Yeah.
Instead of the oranges and socks, she uses her Slim Jims.
Yes, exactly. She's whipping them. That's what she was doing. She was picking up weapons for when she goes back to the stir.
You're right.
Yeah.
She's like, I gotta somehow figure out a way to smuggle these. I'll do it later. They don't see me with these.
That's right. There's a scam out there, Bruiser, you need to be aware of, and it's the dumbest one you've ever heard of.
Okay.
If you find money on your windshield, you need to call the police immediately.
I've heard rumors about this, but I don't know the exact scam.
Well, let's tell you about it. More often than not, when something seems too good to be true, it usually is. So if you walk up to your car and find cash just waiting for you on the windshield, be aware that it isn't your lucky day. In fact, it may be the total opposite. That's because some car thieves are using a new method to get to your vehicle, and it involves leaving money on the cars that they want to take.
Oh.
Yeah. So you've been marked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're not leaving enough money to buy me a new car either, are they?
No, they're not. It might be $20 bills or even a $100 bill, but chances are that money that they've left is fake, though unsuspecting victims' reactions to it won't be. As thieves sit and wait, the hope is that a driver will get in their car, start it, and at that point see the money and hop out to investigate while the car is running. That's when thieves jump into the vehicle and take it. It might sound like an absurd ploy to steal a car, but there are reports of it happening across the country, everywhere from Wisconsin to Maryland, Ohio, and Georgia. It actually has happened so much in one Georgia town that the sheriff's office had to put out a warning about it on Facebook. Car thieves have definitely gotten more creative, too. Money isn't the only tactic that they're using. They might put a bottle of water by a car's tire or on its hood, and they could even use a slice of cheese. Slice of cheese.
Yeah, if you put the slice, like there was an article about an Australian kid who wrote a book called I Should Have Listened to My Dad and Removed the Cheese from the Hood of My Car. And what it is he was driving in Australia and some teens threw cheese on the hood of his car. And he's like, I'm just going to leave it, it'll rain or whatever. Well, it dries and then the heat makes it not only dry, but melt.
Okay.
And it gets into your paint.
Oh.
And to scrub it off, it takes off part of the paint, and it's really hard to scrub and all that.
Okay. As for why they're going with these more unique techniques, it's because there's no weapon involved in them. So if they do get caught, the charges they face won't be as serious. So if you do find money on your windshield, your best bet is to lock your doors and drive off, or not even get in your car and instead just walk away from it. And whatever you do, call the police.
Okay.
Yeah.
Good to know now.
Yeah. So there you go.
I'll have to tell promoters to pay me a different way.
Yeah. Don't leave the money on my windshield. It looks weird, and I'm going to call the cops on you. Yeah. So there you go.
It's the new wrestler handshake.
That's right. Money's on the windshield. Thanks for working.
Not trying to rob you. Already did that.
Yep, already did that. I'm paying you less than what I told you I would. This is an interesting story, Bruiser. A woman is accused of killing a lookalike she met online to fake her own death.
Oh, well, I guess if you're going to fake your own death, might as well get your doppelganger.
Yeah, and then kill her. I don't know.
I guess. I don't know. I haven't met my doppelganger, so.
You've never met anybody who looks exactly like you or somewhat like you?
I've been told I look like people, but I haven't met anybody that I thought looked like me.
See, I've met about five guys that look like me, and I'm not talking about the restaurant, but I've met about 5 guys that look like me, and it's weird. I've been at the Mall of America, looked across a long hallway, and seen a guy that looked exactly like me.
Really?
Yeah, it's strange.
Yeah, hasn't happened to me yet. I want it to.
No,
I'm a big fan of doppelgangers.
It's unnerving.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, it's very unnerving.
Well, if you want to fake your own death, you know where to go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Mall of America.
The Mall of America.
Well, if you want to get shot too, that's a great place to go. But no, I'm kidding. Sorry, Mall of America. You don't pay for advertising here, so I guess you don't get the good publicity. Authorities in Germany announced that they have filed murder charges against a 23-year-old woman and her friend for killing a stranger in an attempt to fake her own death.
That's how bad is your life when you have to fake your own death?
I don't know. Officials said that the woman, who was not identified, scoured social media last summer to find somebody who looked like her. She reached out to her victim and arranged to meet in person. When they met up, the woman and her friend allegedly murdered the stranger. They left the body in the woman's car, where her parents discovered it on August 16th. The suspect came up with the plan to search online for a woman who looked similar to the German Iraqi, kill her, and place her in such a way that the corpse would be mistaken for the suspect, police said in a statement. The ruse worked initially as her parents thought her daughter was stabbed to death, but an autopsy raised doubts about the victim's true identity. 2 days later, the woman and her friend were arrested and remain in custody. Police believe the woman wanted to go into hiding and fake her death due to family problems. Investigations revealed contact to several young ladies during a period of a few weeks. Investigators assume that under a pretext, she managed to organize a meeting with the later victim. Together with a 23-year-old male, she traveled to the, I believe it's Heilbronn region, to pick her up and carry out the planned murder, according to police spokesperson Andreas Eichel. That's weird.
Yeah, the number one flaw with this whole thing is nowadays, if it's a homicide or looks like a homicide, they order an autopsy,
That's right, yeah.
They can look like you all you want, but you guys are going to have different DNA.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, it's
unless you put her DNA somehow in her.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds dirty.
Yeah, it does. Boy, yeah, you nailed it on that one, so to speak.
There's a pickup line for you.
Can I put my DNA in you? Yeah. This one begs the question, okay, is negligence enough to get you arrested?
It depends what you're neglecting.
How about just plain stupidity?
Again, what am I neglecting? If it's plain stupidity with a child, yeah. If it's plain stupidity with myself and I cut my finger off, okay, no big deal.
I'm going to give you a situation. When it costs a city resources, is it enough to be arrested?
No, I think you should be fined for whatever the city had to pay.
Okay, let me give you the example and you tell me.
Okay.
A Florida woman has been rescued from a storm drain for the 3rd time in less than 2 years.
When do you just give up? Why does she keep going back to the same storm drain?
I don't know. A Florida woman was pulled from a storm drain for the 3rd time in 2 years. Bizarre.
Yeah.
The Delray Beach Police Department said officers and firefighters responded to a report of a woman possibly in distress while swimming in a canal near the 500 block of Lindell Boulevard around noon last Wednesday. The department said officers located the woman, identified as Lindsay Jane Kennedy, and asked if she needed help. Kennedy reportedly ignored them and climbed into a storm drain pipe. Delray police said she refused to come out and began crawling further into the culvert pipe, which crossed under Lindell Boulevard. Firefighters were able to keep Kennedy between two sections of pipe while the Delray Beach Fire Rescue Special Operations Team utilized a ladder and rescue harness to pull her out. Kennedy appeared to have minor injuries and was treated at the scene before being transported to a hospital for further evaluation. Delray police said the fire department previously rescued Kennedy from a storm drain in March of 2021 after she had been missing for 3 weeks. According to local news outlets at the time, Kennedy told police she went swimming in a canal near her boyfriend's house on March 3rd, the same night her boyfriend reported her missing. While swimming, she said she entered a doorway in the shallow part of the canal and noticed a tunnel. She continued following tunnels until she realized she was lost. God.
What an idiot.
Kennedy was eventually rescued near the intersection of West Atlantic Avenue and Southwest 11th Avenue after a woman called 911 to report a woman yelling for help from inside the drain. She said she had stopped walking in that area because she could see light and people walking past her. Jesus. The woman, who was 43 at the time, you would think she would know better.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Told police she had been walking in the sewer system for about 3 weeks.
Oh, she had to smell so nice.
Oh, yeah. She had also said she'd been living off an unopened can of ginger ale she'd found in the drain while looking for a way out. That cannot have been sanitary.
No.
Delray police said Kennedy appeared to be coherent and didn't need to be Baker-acted and voluntarily institutionalized. Okay. Police contacted her mother, who said she had a history of mental illness and is a frequent user of illegal narcotics and has a history of doing odd things and making bad decisions. Before she disappeared, Kennedy's family members said she attended a Bible study with her mother where they learned about the prophet Elijah taking a journey. The relatives said...
a completely different journey than when she took.
Yeah, Elijah didn't hit the sewers and go looking. I can tell you that much. The relatives said Kennedy wrote her mom a note claiming she was planning on going on her own journey. Again, Elijah never hit the sewers going looking for anything.
Dear Mom, I'm going to go and finally get my shit together.
It just so happens the shit's in the sewer.
Exactly.
Despite that, the family said that they didn't believe her journey was meant to be in a storm drain. She was reportedly listed as endangered on the sheriff's office missing persons documentation, and a detective wrote in the report she went missing under similar circumstances in April of 2020. Kennedy's third rescue from the storm drain took place in Grand Prairie, Texas, 2 months later in May of 2021. Police in the town were searching for 4 days before her mother and best friend found her at a canal. In this instance, she had reportedly wandered from a rehab facility after checking in. When police saw the woman near a creek and began to approach her, she went into a nearby storm drain. Oh, dear God. A tracking app on her cell phone allowed her family to find her last location before she disappeared underground. Before she was rescued, her family and friends reportedly dropped bags of food and Gatorade into manholes in the area. You have got to be kidding me.
Where's your daughter? Oh, just drop it in any manhole. She'll get it.
Yeah,
she knows her way around.
She'll find the food. You do that for a gerbil.
Exactly.
Right?
Like your cat goes missing, you put it out.
Right. Kennedy was reportedly arrested in Florida in July of 2021 after a hit and run occurred when she sped off from a gas station after stealing beer. She almost ran over the store's clerk, who chased her outside. Then she ran several red lights before crashing with a car. Palm Beach County deputies said she ran from the crash scene to an apartment complex, but staff led them to her. Kennedy's passenger, who was injured, told police she ran because she didn't have a driver's license. Police said her license has been suspended. Guess how many times, Bruiser?
10.
17 times from 2007 to 2020.
Yeah, this lady needs to go to a hospital.
I think
they need to lock her up.
I think they definitely need to, what do they say it is, Baker Act her or institutionalize her?
Yeah.
She's a danger to herself.
Yeah, herself and society.
Yeah.
Like she's posing a danger.
I mean, you keep going to the canals. What do you hope to find hobbits down there, or what?
Whatever she's on is telling her to do it.
I think at that point you start charging her family with either with negligence because they're not taking proper care of her, or you start charging them back with a bill every time she goes missing, and you have to go into the storm sewer, the storm drains, to find her.
Yeah, and she needs to have court-mandated checkups with a doctor.
Yeah. And the woman's 43 years old.
Yeah, there's no reason to be doing what she's doing.
She needs to be, if her parents can't take care of her, she needs to be a ward of the court.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. It's that time once again, folks. You need to get your kids away from the listening device. You need to either put on headphones if you're at work, or just turn the volume down real low. It's time for the Not Safe for Work edition and it's 2 stories of Dumb Crime, Stupid Criminals. We promise you it'll be worth your wait. We'll give you to 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right, let's jump into it. I somehow don't think Jesus would approve of this first story.
I don't think Jesus would have approved of any of our stories we've had tonight.
The headline speaks volumes in this one. Bruce.
Okay.
Headless woman and a topless church rampage.
Okay.
Yes.
Trying to picture this. All right.
A large Jesus statue has been torn from a cathedral wall. This one happened while we were gone, back in the late part of January. A topless woman broke into a church in North Dakota, of course, because it's cold and it's a sport in North Dakota.
You just take all your clothes off, take your tops off, and go find Jesus.
Yep, take your tops off and go raid the church. And then I believe euchre is the next thing they do in North Dakota. Yeah.
Topless euchre.
Yeah. Topless euchre and topless church raiding, I believe, are the things to do in North Dakota. Oh, and then there's watching North Dakota hockey. That's the third thing. Yeah.
That's pretty much it, right? There's some buffalo out there, isn't there?
I think so, but they don't pay attention to them in the winter. No.
Yeah.
A topless woman broke into a church in North Dakota and ripped a large statue of Jesus off the wall, causing the sculpture to crash to the floor, according to police, who say the suspect appeared under the influence of narcotics.
Oh, really?
I think
she's not sober?
Maybe not. Maybe not. Police responded Monday evening to St. Mary's Cathedral in Fargo, after receiving a report of a topless female damaging property. Yeah, that had to be the call of the night, don't you think? For Fargo police, they just roll up and they've got to have a number for it, like I don't know, a 00 double pointy. I don't know what they call it.
A zero hashtag 0 or something like that.
Yeah, hashtag 0 titbit nipply. I don't know what they call it, but that's got to be something close like that. Police responded Monday evening. I already read that part. Upon arriving at the Catholic Church, Fargo Police Department cops spotted 35-year-old Brittany Reynolds. She's known as a party girl in Fargo, exiting the cathedral. She had no shirt or bra on and was not wearing shoes. Well, you know.
Well, hey, she had pants.
Well, she was being tasteful. She's in the house of God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that number you were looking for is actually 8008135.
Is that what it was? That's the police.
If you flip it upside down, it says boobies.
That's the police code?
Yep, that's the police code.
8008135.
Yep. Cops are all like, oh, hey, here it comes.
We got a 8008135. And then they kind of giggle over the giggle over the intercom. Yeah.
And they were fine until they realized she didn't have shoes, and they're like, ew, gross.
Ew, I'm not a foot guy. Yeah. Reynolds, who was detained as she sought to run from police, was unable to answer basic orientation questions and appeared under the influence of narcotics, cops noted. Church surveillance cameras recorded Reynolds flipping over a potted plant before ripping the statue of Jesus off a wall. Boy, she had some issues that night.
She did.
Yeah.
What has she got against Jesus? The J-Man's there for us.
Maybe he wouldn't get naked with her. I don't know.
Jesus was already topless.
Well, he was, yeah. Well, and he was wearing sandals.
Yes.
There's that.
Wait, no. If he was on a crucifix, he's not wearing sandals.
No, that's true. That's true.
It depends what kind of Jesus she ripped off the wall. Was he crucified or was he just a praying Jesus? You know what I mean? Like, what kind of Jesus is she going for? What's her ideal Jesus?
Great band name, by the way, Praying Jesus.
Thank you.
Yeah. Police estimated that it would cost how much to replace the destroyed sculpture?
Those are expensive. Those are, I'm going to say 10 grand. Those are expensive.
You're close. 11,500.
Yeah, church stuff is real expensive. There was a while back in Wisconsin where vandals were vandalizing church, and it was like the artwork was just super expensive.
Yeah, it is. It is. Charged with felony criminal mischief, Reynolds is being held in the Cass County Jail. She's scheduled for a March 1st preliminary hearing. Reynolds' rap sheet includes convictions for disorderly conduct, resisting police, drunk driving, assault, shoplifting, and providing false information to law enforcement, among other things. You know, she keeps busy. She's a busy gal. Ooh, boy. You tell me. Do you think God wanted to see her in his house topless?
Whoa. She's almost a cyclops.
She got a 7 head and 1 eye.
Yeah, how do her eyes get that close?
Well, maybe by looking at each other quite a bit. I don't know.
And she's got that horrible chest tattoo.
Yeah. This one was a chore for Fargo police, I think.
Yeah, this one they're expecting, see, now the lady from Minnesota, if they would have gotten that call, she was topless hitting somebody with the chicken, they'd be like, all right, cool.
Yeah, let's sit and watch for a bit before we handcuff her, boys.
This one, they're like, Jesus, take the wheel.
Jesus, take the wheel. I know she just broke your statue, but you want a little revenge, don't you? I mean, you're not a complete pacifist, are you?
He turns the other cheek. They're like, you need to arrest her for us, Jesus.
He did more than turn the other cheek. He turned and ran. Yeah. And finally, I don't know how this is a crime, but it was a crime to someone.
Okay.
All right. All I know is this. If I found this, I'd try to find the owner as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
A dismembered human penis is found at an Alabama gas station. Cue the banjos.
That's where I left my detachable penis. My bad.
The wife always keeps it in her purse, but for some reason it fell out. No, I'm kidding.
Well, if you listen to the song Detachable Penis, it was stolen from him at a party.
That's true.
So maybe this guy was at a party.
That's true. Our last story of the day has to do with a shocked customer at an Alabama gas station finding a human penis in the parking lot. Isn't that
you think she picked it up one side and went, is this yours?
Isn't that a Saturday night in Alabama, by the way?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you just happen to find a penis in the parking lot. The Dismembered Member, again, a great album title.
Yeah. That's Praying Jesus' first album.
Praying Jesus, the Dismembered Member, on Arista Records this fall, was found shortly after 6 a.m. on Monday at a gas station on Interstate 10 in Mobile, Alabama. According to the newspaper Lagniappe? I don't know how you pronounce that. I don't know. I'm not an Alabamian. However, the Mobile Police Department told the outlet that the shocking discovery was not being investigated as an assault or murder. What was it? A leisure activity?
How many penises are just lying around where they're just like, oh, yeah, sure. Don't worry about that.
Yeah, we're going to. Yeah, it could be a giant mouse penis. Elephantitis on a mouse. We're not going to consider that a murder or
How do we know that person didn't live?
Yeah. The force separately told the Daily Caller that the, gosh, that sounds like a periodical you get weekly that you look up hookers in, the Daily Caller. The force separately told the Daily Caller that the working assumption is that the horrid find, was likely tied to the deadly crash of a motorcyclist that same morning. Can you imagine that?
No one thought, hey, this dude's missing his penis. We should go find it.
How would you like to be the coroner that gets the body of that motorcyclist that day and goes, well, missing his dick. Let's just call it a day.
Calls the sheriff's department. Yeah, this is the you didn't give me everything of this guy. No, what are you talking about? his dick's gone. Just don't know where his dick. Like, I don't know where it is. He has no dick.
Well, we're not gonna search for it. The guy's gone. I mean, what are you gonna
he's
do?
Dead, right? Yeah.
It's not like they're playing frisk him at the funeral. You know,
We'll just have an open casket from the top up.
isn't that every open casket?
Yeah.
From the top up. It's not like they open up the bottom to see how big his bulge is at the end.
They might. Well, this guy won't. This guy's flat.
God. 29-year-old Christopher Means was, not that we're laughing at this, was pronounced dead at the scene after losing control and being struck by multiple vehicles.
Ouch. So we ping-ponged around. Now, if I'm a paramedic and I'm showing up and he's dead and I have to take issue of all of his injuries, okay?
Mm-hmm.
His pants have to either be ripped off, undone, or just ripped in the middle. So I'm going to look there because what if it's a protruding bone? What if it's, you know what I mean? And if I look and I don't see, he's supposed to be male.
Yeah.
And there's no Winky looking back at me. I'm going to put out an APB for a lost wiener.
An APB for a lost wiener. Breaker 19. This is the death truck. I'm looking for a flaccid flounder out in the parking lot somewhere.
What if it hit somebody on the face and they're like, ew, and just threw it to the ground and left?
I just got slapped by a flying wiener.
Ew, something spit on me.
My God.
There's so many questions about if they find this guy's corpse. That's a big, I don't know how big it was, but it's still an important piece missing.
You know, I got to thank Tom, our guy who sends us regular stories. He sent me one that I didn't know where to put. So speaking of where to put, he sent me one where to put. I had no idea, and it was about a company that makes used or resells used sex toys. And I'm thinking that doesn't fit either program.
No,
but yeah. And I'm just thinking along this line as we're reading this story, I'm thinking, what do you do with that when you find it?
Like I said, you pick it up and walk inside and go, hey, this was in your parking lot?
What do you think the gas?
Do you ask someone at the pump, hey, did you drop your penis? I found a penis. Everyone got their penis?
Hey, check. Dick check. Everybody just looks down and goes, nope, it's still there.
I'm good.
All right, I'm going to turn this into the gas station lost and found. But if anyone's missing one or wants to trade up, I got one right here.
And how is it in the police show? I'm going, yep, just another ripped off dick. Throw it in the back. We have no need to be concerned.
We'll take it into evidence, but we ain't charging anybody on this one.
Yeah, there's no murder here. There's no homicide.
This one is just an honestly, it's a slam and tear.
This one fell off.
Yep.
This one's on us. It fell off.
Yep. So Christopher Means was pronounced dead at the scene, losing control, being struck by multiple vehicles, according to police, noting how only one driver remained at the scene. One driver remained at the scene.
That's disturbing. If I hit somebody, I would stop.
That's crazy.
Yeah. That's wrong.
And for
this poor guy was passing away without a penis. And they didn't stop to check.
It's not like you give him mouth to mouth through the thing. I mean,
maybe.
I just want to show you in this article, Bruiser, they have a picture of the actual gas station. Like, but it's not like they've got it circled where they found it or anything.
I was gonna say, I'm looking for the circle. Like, oh, it's found right there. Okay,
we found it right.
The normal gas station.
We found it right here. Don't step in that spot, or you're stepping on the grave of a dick.
You see Bill over there? Yeah, Bill's standing where the dick was.
Yep.
Look for Bill.
He's just pointing to the circle where he found it.
he's doing the DX chop right at the circle.
That's right. So that folks
Dick
is
was right here. Dick was right here.
Dick, I found Dick here.
If I was at gas station Halloween, I'd definitely get a tombstone said, "Here lies Dick."
I think they're going to do that.
I hope they do. If they're a cool gas station, they should use this 100% of their availability.
Yeah.
Like advertising and everything.
Yeah. And I think
Worried about your penis? Stop on by.
I think for Halloween they ought to give away, you know how for bachelorette parties they have the little dick lollipops,
Yeah.
and gummy dicks. I think they ought to give those away to the kids for.
Not kids. Then we're gonna have them in the article next. In Halloween, we're gonna have this gas station because they're giving dicks to minors.
Well, in memory of the guy who died there. I mean, you know, they'll just.
So no, they ID you, and if you're 18 or over, you get a dick sucker. But if you're 18 or if you're 17 or younger, you get a skeleton with a big black hole where his crotch is.
They'll just say, "This is in memory of Christopher." It's all tasteful. I'm just saying, it's all tasteful. That'll do it for Dumb Crime, Stupid Criminals today. Tomorrow on the show, we're back to supernatural news.
All right.
I got so many AI stories.
Oh, great.
But we're only going to pick the best of the best for tomorrow. We don't want people to crawl in a hole and never come back again. There are some quite disturbing AI stories that happened while we were away on vacation. But yeah, only the creepiest of the creepy for tomorrow. So, and other stuff for tomorrow as well. So, but that'll do it for today for Dumb Crime, Stupid Criminals. And we want to thank Steve Ditmars for being on the show today. Gasping for Air is the second book in the Big Dog series. I encourage you to go pick that up and follow the further adventures of J.W. North. Good book, by the way. Good book. I want you to go check that out. So I want to thank Steve Ditmars for being on today as well. For Beer City Bruiser, I'm Tim Dennis. Thank you so much for tuning in to the best in true crime podcasting. That's True Crime Tuesday. Join us tomorrow for the best in paranormal podcasting. Darkness Radio.